My wife survived cancer because I gave up everything to save her. But when she was healthy again, she laughed in my face and said, I want a real man, not you. She took my children and left me with nothing. But when she saw me rebuilding my life and the community rallying behind me, she called, desperate to come back. I just smiled. Betrayal cuts deep, but karma is patient. I was ready with a plan that would turn her new world upside down. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with the time where you are now. My wife, Melody, used to say I was her hero. I believed her right up until the day she survived cancer and told me, I want a real man, not you. That was the moment my world split in two, 6 months earlier. I was the guy everyone envied. I ran a small but thriving construction business in Colorado. I had a house I'd built with my own hands, two kids who still thought their dad could fix anything, and a wife I'd loved since we were teenagers. Melody was the center of our world, funny, fierce, and the glue that held our family together. Or so I thought. When Melody was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, everything changed overnight. I remember the day she told me her hands were shaking, her eyes wide with fear. I promised her, we'll get through this. I'll do whatever it takes, and I meant it. I sold my truck, cashed out my retirement, and took on every job I could find. I slept in hospital chairs, learned to cook bland meals, and held her hair back when the chemo made her sick. I watched her lose her hair, her strength, and sometimes her hope. But I never let her see me cry. Our kids, Colton and Piper, were just old enough to understand that something was wrong, but too young to know how close we came to losing her. I shielded them from the worst of it, telling them, Mom's a fighter. She beat this. And she did. Against the odds, Melody went into remission. The doctors called it a miracle. I called it the happiest day of my life, but the celebration didn't last. As Melody got stronger, she got colder. She stopped laughing at my jokes. She started spending more time on her phone, texting people I didn't know. She'd come home late from support group meetings, smelling of expensive perfume. I told myself she was just finding herself again after a year of hell. I wanted to believe that. Then, one night, she came home and told me she wanted a divorce. I need more than this, she said, her voice flat. I need a real man, someone who can give me the life I deserve. I stared at her, stunned. I gave up everything for you, I said. I sold my business, our house, my truck, everything. I did it all to save you. She just shrugged. That's the problem, Mark. You gave up. A real man would have found a way to keep it all. The next day, she filed for divorce and demanded full custody of our kids. She told the court I was unstable, that I couldn't provide for them. She moved in with a lawyer named Brent, a guy I'd never met but who seemed to know everything about my finances. Within weeks, I was living in a rented room above a garage, working 2 jobs just to pay child support. My kids barely spoke to me. Melody poisoned them against me, telling them I was weak, that I'd failed them. I spent nights staring at the ceiling, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. I replayed every moment, every sacrifice, every promise I'd made. I asked if I'd ever get my life or my children back. But what Melody didn't know was that I wasn't done fighting, not by a long shot. And the day would come when she'd regret ever underestimating me. The first time I realized just how deep Melody's betrayal went, it wasn't in a courtroom or a lawyer's office. It was in the school parking lot on a cold Thursday afternoon. I'd come to pick up Colton and Piper for my weekend visitation. They walked out with their backpacks slung low, eyes on the ground. Piper wouldn't even look at me. Colton handed me a folded note, Melody's handwriting, sharp and cold. Don't bring them back late, and don't feed them junk. I tried to smile, tried to act like everything was normal, but the kids were quiet, distant. At dinner, Piper picked at her food and finally whispered, Mom says you're not trying hard enough. She says you gave up on us. My heart broke right there at the table. I wanted to scream, to tell them the truth, but I just said, I love you both. I'm doing my best. That weekend, I found out Melody had changed their school without telling me. She'd moved them to a private academy across town, one I couldn't afford, one where I wasn't even listed as an emergency contact. When I called to ask why, she said, a real man would find a way to pay for it. Brent already covered the first semester. Brent. The name was like a splinter under my skin. He was always there at the kids' soccer games, at school events, even at the grocery store. He'd show up in his tailored suits, shake hands with the principal, and act like he was their father. Melody encouraged it, telling everyone that Brent was the man who'd stepped up when I'd failed. The worst part was the way my kids started to believe it. Colton stopped calling me dad. Piper started calling Brent uncle. Every time I tried to talk to them about what was happening, Melody would swoop in and twist my words. She told the court I was unstable, that I was trying to turn the kids against her. She even accused me of being jealous and vindictive. The judge believed her. My visitation was cut to every other weekend, supervised. I had to meet with a court-appointed counselor, who asked me if I'd ever considered anger management. You seem frustrated, Mark, she said, scribbling notes. Do you ever feel like you're losing control? I wanted to laugh. Of course, I was frustrated. I'd lost everything: my home, my business, my family. And the woman I'd sacrificed everything for was now painting me as the villain. The final straw came when I got a letter from the bank. Melody had taken out a second mortgage on the house I'd built, using my name. She forged my signature, drained the equity, and then let the payments lapse. The bank was coming after me for the debt. When I confronted her, she just smiled. You should have read the fine print, Mark. Maybe next time, you'll be more careful. That night, I sat in my tiny room, staring at the eviction notice on the table. I'd hit rock bottom. I was broke, alone, and my kids barely knew me. Melody and Brent had won. They'd taken everything I cared about and left me with nothing but anger and regret. But little did they know, I wasn't going to stay broken for long. I spent weeks in a fog, drifting from one low-wage job to the next, barely scraping by. Every night, I replayed Melody's words in my head. I want a real man, not you. I wondered if she was right. Maybe I was weak. Maybe I'd failed as a husband and a father. But every time I saw my kids' faces, tired, confused, and caught in the crossfire, I felt a spark of something I hadn't felt in months: resolve. One night, after a double shift at the warehouse, I came home to find a letter slipped under my door. It was from my father. Mark, you're still my son. You're still their dad. Don't let her rewrite your story. We're with you. Love, Dad. I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching that note, and realized I wasn't alone. My family hadn't given up on me. Why should I give up on myself? That was the night I decided to fight back, not with anger, but with strategy. I started documenting everything. Every missed call, every text from Melody, every time Brent showed up at my kids' school pretending to be their father. I kept a journal, logged every interaction, and saved every email. I met with a new lawyer, one who actually listened. She told me, "You have a case, Mark. Parental alienation, forgery, and financial fraud. But you need proof. You need patience." So I got to work. I reached out to my old crew from the construction business. Chester, my foreman, offered to help. You built this town, Mark. People remember that. Let's get your reputation back. He put me in touch with former clients who wrote letters to the court about my character. My brother, Sam, helped me dig through public records and found evidence of Melody's forged signatures and Brent's shady financial dealings. I started showing up at every school event, every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference, even if I had to stand in the back. I wanted my kids to see that I wasn't going anywhere. I volunteered for every overtime shift, saved every penny, and slowly started to pay off the debt Melody had dumped on me. I even found a small apartment I could afford, with a room for Colton and Piper when they visited. The more I fought, the more Melody and Brent tried to push back. They filed complaints, tried to get restraining orders, and spread rumors about me in the community. But this time, I didn't break. I kept my head down, kept gathering evidence, and kept showing up for my kids. Then, one afternoon, I got a call from my lawyer. "Mark, we have enough. The court is willing to reopen your custody case, and the bank is investigating the forged mortgage documents. This is your chance." I hung up the phone, my hands shaking not with fear, but with hope. For the first time in a year, I felt like I was finally taking control of my life again. And that's when I discovered the perfect way to ruin them. Not with rage, but with the truth. I knew that if I wanted real justice served, I had to be patient. Revenge stories aren't about quick payback. They're about making sure the truth comes out and that karma lands where it's deserved. My lawyer and I built our case piece by piece, turning every betrayal into evidence. I learned the art of pro-revenge, quiet, methodical, and impossible to ignore. First, we gathered proof of Melody's financial fraud. My brother Sam found a paper trail of forged signatures and unauthorized withdrawals. The bank's fraud department opened an investigation, and suddenly, Melody's accounts were frozen. She called me in a panic, demanding to know what I'd done. I just told her, "Maybe you should have read the fine print." Next, we focused on the custody battle. My lawyer filed a motion to reopen the case, citing parental alienation and emotional abuse. We presented letters from teachers, neighbors, and even Colton's soccer coach, each one describing how Melody and Brent had manipulated the kids and shut me out of their lives. The judge agreed to hear us out. Meanwhile, I kept showing up for my kids. I sent them letters, left voicemails, and never missed a single event, even if I had to stand in the rain outside the fence. Slowly, Colton started to respond. He texted me late one night, "Dad, I miss you. Can we talk?" Piper followed a week later, asking if she could come over and bake cookies like we used to. I felt hope flicker back to life, but Melody and Brent weren't done. They tried to intimidate me, sending threatening messages and even showing up at my apartment to talk. I recorded every encounter, handed everything to my lawyer, and refused to be baited. I knew that in family drama, the one who keeps their cool wins in the end. The court date finally arrived. I walked into the courtroom with my head held high, my family and friends behind me. Melody looked nervous for the first time, and Brent's confidence had faded. My lawyer presented our evidence: the forged mortgage, the bank's investigation, the letters from the community, and the documentation of parental alienation. The judge listened, asked questions, and took notes. Then, in a twist I never saw coming, the bank's fraud investigator took the stand. He testified that Melody had not only forged my signature but also attempted to hide assets in a secret account. The judge's face hardened. "This is not just a family conflict," she said. "This is criminal." The tension in the room was electric. Melody tried to defend herself, but her lies unraveled under questioning. Brent tried to intervene, but the judge silenced him. For the first time, I saw fear in their eyes. But when the day finally came, everything changed. The judge's gavel came down with a finality that echoed through the courtroom. Full custody of Colton and Piper is awarded to their father, Mark. All financial assets in question are to be frozen pending criminal investigation. Ms. Melody, you are hereby ordered to vacate the family home and surrender all documentation related to the children's welfare. Mr. Brent, you are to have no further contact with the minors until this court says otherwise. Melody's face crumpled. Brent looked like he'd been punched. I felt a wave of relief, satisfaction, and finally justice. For the first time since Melody's betrayal, I saw the truth win out over lies. The courtroom was silent, but I could feel the support of my family and friends behind me. My lawyer squeezed my shoulder. "You did it, Mark. You never gave up." Outside the courthouse, Colton and Piper ran to me. Piper clung to my waist, sobbing, "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't know what to believe." Colton hugged me tight, whispering, "I'm proud of you." I knelt, holding them both, promising, "We're together now. No one will ever come between us again." Melody was left standing alone, her world unraveling. The community that once pitied her now saw her for who she truly was. Brent's law license was suspended pending investigation, and the bank pressed fraud charges. Karma had finally caught up with them both. In the weeks that followed, I rebuilt my life piece by piece. I moved back into the house I'd built, this time with my kids by my side. My old crew returned, and together we took on new projects. The business grew, but more importantly, so did my relationship with Colton and Piper. We cooked dinners together, played board games, and talked late into the night. The wounds Melody left behind began to heal. I learned to trust again, but I never forgot the lessons of betrayal. I taught my kids about honesty, resilience, and the importance of standing up for themselves even when it feels like the world is against them. I became the father they needed, not just the one they remembered. Melody and Brent faced the consequences of their actions. Melody was convicted of fraud and lost custody permanently. Brent's career was over, his reputation in ruins. They had built their lives on lies, and in the end, those lies destroyed them. As for me, I found peace not just in justice served, but in knowing I had fought for my family and won. I realized that true strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up, no matter how many times you're knocked down. My story became one of hope, redemption, and the power of never giving up. Tell me, do you think this revenge was fair, or did they deserve even worse? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more emotional storytelling, family drama, and the most satisfying revenge stories on YouTube.